What happened? Why did you fall?
Uh, I don't know. I guess I'm not strong enough to hold the hold. Yeah.
Do you know where your left foot was when you fell?
Uh, I don't know. Maybe on this hole. No. I think it was on that hole probably. I don't know.
And what will you do next time?
Uh, just try harder, I guess. Yeah.
Does this sound like a familiar scenario to you? Have you found maybe that your progress has plateaued for a while and you don't know why? Have you found yourself struggling on climbs that you're more than strong enough to do? Or do you often find it hard to remember the specific sequence that you're supposed to do on a climb? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, I think you might benefit from reading the book Rock Climbing Technique by climbing coach and guide John Kettle. I haven't seen it discussed on YouTube, so I thought in this short video I would give a general overview of the book with my main takeaways as well as some of my favorite exercises towards the end. Let's get into it. If you have been thinking that you would like to improve your climbing technique, regardless of the level at which you're currently climbing, I would definitely suggest picking up a copy of this book by John Kettle, especially if you're kind of intermediate to advanced climber. And if you haven't really thought about it, I'll give you a quote from the book itself, which is, "The reason most people don't work hard on developing good technique is a lack of awareness that there is scope for improvement." So I'd say that unless you're already climbing at an elite level, then there is definitely scope for improvement for most of us. The primary aim of the book, I would say, is to increase your awareness of what is happening during and between movements on the wall. Ultimately, since what we refer to as climbing technique relies on voluntary movement, and this is not necessarily to be confused with conscious movement, then we would benefit from bringing as much of our attention to bear as possible. The book achieves this in two main ways, the first of which is giving you more questions than answers, and the second of which is giving you more constraints than solutions for your movements. I would consider both of these as good things, so let's start with the first one, which is asking you many questions. This takes the form of you choosing a climb that is well within your level, then climbing it repeatedly and being able to answer questions such as how many right hand movements did you do? How many left hand movements did you do? Then there are harder ones like how many times did you adjust your foot on a foothold? How many times were your hips facing to the right or to the left during this climb? How many times did you make contact with the wall first with your foot and then had to slide down to touch the hold? These questions might sound simple, but you actually will have to pay a lot of attention to even answer one of them correctly per climb, let alone multiple ones at the same time. Moving on to the constraints, these are introduced in the form of exercises and drills in which you choose a climb, however you don't climb it as you normally would, but you have to adhere to some rules. For example, you have to keep your arms completely straight, or you have to bring your hips above your feet every time before you move a hand, and so on. This is known as the constraints-led approach to coaching movement, which is based on the ecological dynamics framework, which suggests that movement patterns emerge from the interaction of three different types of constraints. The first of which is organismic or individual constraints, such as your height, your weight, your reach, your flexibility, your mental and cognitive capabilities, your previous experience, your current fitness level, or your fatigue level. The second one are environmental constraints, such as for us, for example, the temperature or the humidity, the rock type, or for example, the presence of other people around. And finally, we have the task constraints, which are the rules of the activity that we are currently engaged in, the type of equipment we are using, for example, if we're doing ice climbing versus trad climbing or bouldering, any kind of temporal constraints that we have, whether we are doing, for example, speed climbing, so the point is to go to the top as fast as possible, and any other goals of the task that we have. In this approach to learning movement, the learner is encouraged to explore the whole movement space that is available to them and find movement solutions that are optimal to them within their own constraints and those of their environment. This is in opposition to more traditional approaches in which a coach would set out a specific movement pattern that would have to be repeated over and over by the learner until they can reproduce it with accuracy. There is actually quite a bit more to say about this approach to coaching and learning movement, but in the interest of time, I will leave it at that. And if you would like to hear more about it, I can make a dedicated video specifically for the constraints-led approach and ecological dynamics. In this book, the constraints that are manipulated are the task constraints by imposing certain rules for your movement that bring attention to different parts of your body and your movement on the wall. And this brings us to the next section of this video, in which I would like to quickly mention some of my favorite exercises that I incorporate during my warm-up on the wall. I do recommend incorporating these exercises into your warm-up on the wall, since by forcing you to pay attention to how you're moving, they can help you get into a state of mindful movement, which helps you move better when it actually matters later on in your projects. It definitely beats just going through the motions and doing 5 to 10 easy climbs mindlessly to just take it and then move on. The drills that I will mention here are all quite well known, I think, but I didn't really want to put the drills that I don't incorporate myself, so let's get into them. The first one that I like to do almost always is the very well known silent feet drill. This drill helps a lot to bring precise awareness of your foot placements by essentially augmenting the feedback that you're getting, apart from the proprioceptive feedback that you get from the muscles themselves and the visual feedback while you're looking at the placements, with also the auditory feedback of listening for your bumping against the wall or the hold. Initially, you'll find that you need to be quite slow to also be silent with your foot placements, but hopefully over time, you can increase the speed of your placements as well as being accurate. The second one is the no readjustments drill, and you can actually do it in two ways. So the first one, the stricter one, is if you are actually not allowed to readjust at all on the wall, and once you place either a hand or a foot, you have to keep it there and keep moving. The second way, however, is to do the climb normally, try to not readjust, but then notice every time you make a readjustment, or tell your partner to notice how many readjustments you did and where you did them, and then do a little debrief at the end of your climb. So the intention of this drill is to make more precise placements every time so that you don't have to keep readjusting and losing time and energy on the wall. The final one I like to do is using a 3-finger drag grip only during my warm-up climbs, and this helps bring attention to my hand placements rather than just crimping everything habitually. However, you will also find that it requires some subtle body adjustments to get things right, because you can't really pull on it as much as you can with a half crimp, for example. As a bonus, I have a more conceptual one, which is not really a movement exercise, and this is that during my sessions with a flash focus, I like to have a precise plan for the beta I will use for a problem or a climb, and then tell this to my partner to have more accountability, but also for memory purposes. Then do the climb and then review what I did and what I did not do according to my plan at the end. So did things work out the way I thought they would? Did I misjudge the distances or what I can do with my own reach? Did I miss some heel or toe hook, for example? And the point is not that the plan that you make in the beginning is binding, it's more that you have a plan and then you can have the feedback of what worked and what didn't, so you can adjust for next time. In summary, I think this book is very helpful for bringing awareness to your movement patterns on the wall and for breaking some unconscious habits that you might have developed and might be holding you back. You should expect to be challenged and to get outside of your comfort zone. As the author himself says, be prepared to battle mentally on climbs that you would normally cruise. As you can see, this book is not so much about acquiring some specific knowledge for doing certain climbing moves, but rather it's a way of practicing more effectively so you can find your own movement solutions within your own constraints. In that way, it's a little bit like meditation in the sense that there is nothing really to learn, but something to practice consistently. If you're a beginner, I would say that you should start very simple and choose just one constraint at a time. Even that might be a little bit too much, and then build over time. Whereas if you're a more advanced climber, you can choose a couple of constraints at the same time, and you will find this quite challenging as well. The point for everyone is to choose a level at which you're being challenged and the challenge level is right for you. I hope this video has been useful in some way to you. And please check out the book itself, it's very good, I would say. I will add some links for you to find it in the description below. I will also add the link to John Kettle's channel, in which you can find videos of all the drills that are mentioned in the book itself. And finally, I'll add some links to a couple of papers from the literature that are relevant to the constraints-led approach. If you like this video format and you have more books that you would like me to review next, please let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to do so, and subscribe for more. Happy practicing and thank you for watching.